Okay.
He is going to take in this moment.
You heard it. It's your day. You know what? I can't even be mad. I can't even be mad.
Here we go.
I can't even be mad.
There is one man in sports you do not bet against. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., who now has more rings than any NFL franchise. He's got 7 in 10 tries. I don't want to ever hear again on this show, Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom. No, he's not. The GOAT is the GOAT is the GOAT. Thank you.
You know what, Skip?
Start the show.
Before I get into why, I would like to give a congratulations to Arthur Sears Herring, who's finally off the hook. He's the man who wrote Dewey Defeats Truman, and nearly 100 years later, finally somebody has a worse take. And it's my last 5 years of Tom Brady takes. So you're off the hook, sir. I now take that mantle. For not just the lead up to this game, but for the last few years. Because everything that Brandon said the Chiefs needed to be worried about, they needed to be worried about, and everything that I dismissed happened. So I want to give the Bucs credit because I don't think it's about what the Chiefs didn't do. I think it's about what the Bucs did do.
Are you surprised by the beatdown that took place?
No, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. Listen, I picked the Chiefs to win this game. I knew that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would score over 30. I knew they'd find a way to put up points because I wasn't enamored with Kansas City's defense. But I certainly didn't expect Tampa Bay's defense to do what they did. To get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, to pressure him on 32.7% of the snaps, I think that was the number. To sit up there and watch him scrambling for his life. Listen, you only blitzed about 5 times. So with your front 4, you were getting at him. This kid, Devin White, was an absolute monster. He was an absolute monster. And this kid, Levante David, if I remember correctly, helped smother Travis Kelce. We got to give credit where credit is due in that regard. But I'm shocked because even with all of that being said, even with trouble on your offensive line at the right tackle and the left tackle, I don't give a damn about any of that. To be held to 9 points, for the Kansas City Chiefs offense to not even get in the end zone one time, it was an absolute positive beat down. They got beat down. They got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Big picture-wise, though, it is about Brady. And Brady coming to Tampa after his own team didn't want him back, after the San Francisco 49ers didn't want him instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, and after myself and, to be fair to myself, many others counted him out and laughed at him throughout the year, talking about his bedtime and forgetting the downs and the inability to beat good teams. They were 7-5. They went into the bye week, and they have not lost since. So last night was a tour de force, majestic performance by the Tampa defense. The season is about what Brady brought to what had been statistically the worst franchise in sports and brought him to the Super Bowl, Brandon.
I'll say this. I was not expecting it. I expected Mahomes to be Superman and the Chiefs to win. But I did think he'd need to be Superman to win. And I can't say I'm shocked by the blowout. It was a mismatch on the line of scrimmage. A mismatch on the line of scrimmage. And Brady's not going to do you any favors like some of these other quarterbacks that Mahomes has faced in comebacks where they start making mistakes. He's going to cut the mistakes down when he needs to. The mismatch on the line of scrimmage was the entire thing. Todd Bowles, everyone's saying he's the MVP. It's true. But let's be honest. You know the key to the whole game is get pressure with 4. You can. It's not that the Chiefs' offensive line was playing badly. They were playing as well as they could, but they were physically overmatched. They were missing 3 starters, 4 offensive linemen altogether, and both starting tackles. And they're going up against Shaq Barrett and JPP, and in the middle, Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh, plus those linebackers.
But even though Brady's won now 4 rings, I think he's won like 3 or 4 rings since the age of 37. Since the age of 37.
He's won 3 since I made the Cliff prediction. Out of the last 5 years.
He has
3.
multiple after 40. That's all I know.
Don't bring that up. Don't do that to yourself. But in the end, what it comes down to is that when you get beat down like that, and it's at the hands of Brady, people are going to remember that. Those other details, while definitely accurate, is not what folks outside of Max Kellerman and the Dan Orlovskis of the world and others are going to recall.
So Tom Brady, playing in an era where it's hardest to win, is now winning at a clip that we haven't seen, especially in the sport of football. Like, so he won in New England, and we was all wondering, hey, is it Brady or is it Belichick? Then he moves to Tampa. I had my doubts. Y'all all know I had my doubts. You didn't, but I did. I was like, ain't no way he about to come out here and win a Super Bowl. Ain't no way that'll happen. Not only does he show up in Tampa, but year one, no offseason, wins a Super Bowl. The winning, it goes where Tom Brady goes.
Yes, it does.
Like, New England, Tom Brady leaves there, they don't win. Tampa, they don't win. Tom Brady shows up, they win. Whatever the equation is, plus Tom Brady equals Super Bowl.
Preach.
I don't care what begets that phrase. Whatever the equation is, plus Tom Brady equals Super Bowl.
How could we see this coming? We've seen Todd Bowles do this. Todd Bowles had the Aaron Rodgers kryptonite. Aaron Rodgers was like, yeah, I saw it coming. When Aaron Rodgers had that horrible game, 2 interceptions, low passer rating, completion percentage low, that's all Todd Bowles, and we saw it again.
Yeah, I mean, they were that good, and you go back to their matchup in the regular season. Talked about it last week. The first half, Mahomes did whatever they wanted. They could have put up 40 points. Second half was the blueprint, not only to beating them last night in the Super Bowl, but also getting to the Super Bowl. They used that same blueprint, that same game plan from Week 6 matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they used that against Aaron Rodgers. It was the same thing. So they was able to go out there a couple of weeks ago and execute it to a T.
Back to the question. I'm going to try to calm down and answer this as objectively as possible. The single biggest reason the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, and I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth, was that, number one, Bill Belichick pushed Tom Brady out the back door in New England. That was.
Oh, you going all the way? You going all the way back?
I'm going the biggest picture. You don't doubt the GOAT like that. You don't shame him publicly with stories from inside the Patriots that the whole coaching staff was down on him and thought it was time for him to go home and call it a career.
Right.
And then number two, out of nowhere, only 10 months and 14 days ago. Think about that. It was only 10 months and 14 days ago. Tom Brady shocked not just the NFL world, he shocked the sports world. He chose Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, who had the worst winning percentage for a franchise in all of sports. Tampa Bay, who hadn't made the playoffs in 13 years and hadn't won a playoff game in almost 20 years? Seriously? Yeah, he did that.
Let me tell you what I learned by watching Tom Brady yesterday. That the Chiefs got too focused on achievement after the equal sign. How's it all going to add up? Are we going to be a dynasty? We going back to back, run it back, as they kept wearing those T-shirts and talking about it all year? Okay. And Tom Brady, with all of his greatness, which is even greater than the Chiefs, matter of fact, it's greater than any other NFL franchise in history right now with his 7th ring, he showed me that he embodies what the process is, which is starting at square one. Let's talk about everything Tom Brady had to deal with. And then watching him once again be a Super Bowl MVP for the 5th time, extending that lead he has in that category as well. Tom Brady has to leave a destination that he's been in for 20 years, a system, 20 years, an identity that's now being renewed and really has to be restored somewhere else. He goes to a coach who's never won a Super Bowl. He goes to a situation where his offensive coordinator, my boy Byron Leftwich, who I chopped it up with this morning, actually was drafted after Tom Brady and retired before Tom Brady, but now is his offensive coordinator in authority. How crazy is that? Then he goes to that situation, he looks around. This is Tom Brady, who has the most wins of any quarterback in NFL history, looking around at a franchise with the most losses in sports history. And he just looks at all this adversity, adds it all up and says, is that all? Is that it? Let's go. And he got to work, where I saw the Chiefs not getting back to work in the same respect. They skipped square one. Tom Brady went to square one because he knew it was a new situation, plus he knew what is the ingredient for my success. The most important ingredient, his main ingredient, is his focus, man. He focused on the details, where the Chiefs just focused in on the summation of what those details look like. So what I learned from Tom Brady is simple. No matter how great you are at anything, never think that you're a master of the first step unless you bring yourself back to that place. That's what I learned, and that's what I'm sharing. So, Acho, are you more impressed with the Bucs or disappointed in the Chiefs?
Big dog, give credit where credit is due.
Please do.
Period. Like,
right to me?
To you.
Oh, okay. Let's start here.
But I can't fully give it to you. I'm going to get there later. The first person I got it, them Bucs, boy.
Wow.
Hey.
Wow.
Those Bucs, not only did they manhandle the Chiefs mentally, but they were prepared to manhandle the Chiefs physically, right? In football, it's hard to say that somebody's soft, right? You can't do that. But them Chiefs got dominated between the white lines, outside of the white lines, anywhere you could get dominated, Sel, they got dominated.
I'm impressed by the Tampa Bay Bucs because the fact is they faced adversity square in the face all year long, despite naysayers like Acho, despite naysayers like Nick Wrong, despite naysayers out there just telling them all year long, week 1 against the Saints, oh, man, y'all taking the L. Then you look at them in week 9, losing to this team, and week 12, and then all those moments where they could have just tapped out and said, you know what, we're talented, but we're just that close, but we're not close enough. They responded to that adversity.
Stephen A., let's go back to the GOAT talk. Did Brady finally put an end to it, even in the future? It's all said and done. Brady's the GOAT. No one's ever going to take that away.
I think so. He's going to go down as the most celebrated quarterback in the history of the National Football League. And I think that, again, I say it's over for Patrick Mahomes, and only in that regard. We all know that Patrick Mahomes is phenomenal. We know he will be back. There's no question in my mind that as long as he's healthy and he's at the quarterback position for the Kansas City Chiefs, they will win Super Bowl championships in the future. I sincerely doubt it'll reach 7, but more importantly than that, we're going to look at the fact that when he went against Brady, Brady took him out.
They had the hiccup in the season where they were poor for a 5-week stretch, absolutely. But then he goes on the road and beats 3 Hall of Famers, 3 of the all-time greats. He goes on the road and beats Drew Brees. He goes on the road and beats Aaron Rodgers, and then he beats Patrick. We agree Patrick will more than likely be a Hall of Famer. I mean, this is not only did Tom go win his 7th, Tom won his 7th and went on the greatest Super Bowl run a quarterback's ever been on.
Week 12, Tyreek Hill was one-on-one covered essentially the entire first half. What? Todd Bowles just left him one-on-one. He said, hey, our cornerbacks are good enough. Tyreek Hill went out there and ate. Then what we see yesterday, Tyreek Hill did not see one-on-one coverage the entire game. Safety was over the top every single time. That's how Tyreek Hill ends up with 2 catches, 13 yards in the first half. Beat them there. Okay, where else did they beat them? Remember, the Buccaneers were one of the worst penalized teams last year. Even during this year, they had some games where they were terribly penalized.
See?
But all of a sudden, the Chiefs got 8 penalties to the Bucs 1 penalty in the first half. You know, the game of football, I won't say it's won and lost via penalties, but that definitely aids to it. So then the Bucs played a cleaner game. Then you out-schemed them as well. Tom Brady, 16 for 20 in the first half, 3 touchdowns, 80% completion percentage. Only time in Super Bowl history, 80% completion percentage, plus 3 touchdowns in the first half. I'm not going to lie, Sel. I was shocked. And I was shocked not because I didn't read the warning signs. I was shocked because Tom Brady came out there and played like he hasn't played all postseason. I was shocked because the Chiefs came out there and they didn't necessarily lay an egg, but the Buccaneers just manhandled them. So I'm giving all credit to the Buccaneers more than I'm taking some away from the Chiefs.
I mean, Tom Brady was said that he's too old. His arm wasn't strong enough. He had fallen off the cliff. Couldn't get it done without Bill. I mean, how's that looking today? And I think that we've labeled him the greatest of a lot of different things. I think he's the greatest believer in that I've ever witnessed. RC labeled off Fournette and AB and Gronk. 2 of those 3 guys were cast off. 2 of those 3 guys, and some of it because their own work, but 2 of those 3 guys no one believed in but Tom.
But the Bucs just manhandled them.
Yes. So you're not disappointed in the team getting manhandled? What kind of coach are you?
And
what kind of teammate are you?
Because can you say who played bad? Patrick Mahomes ain't that bad.
His quarterback rating was 52, bro.
But you watch the game,
Dog,
Sal.
Patrick
Like,
Mahomes-
he's running for his life. He's spinning around like this.
Timeout.
Trying to find a receiver,
No,
and then at the last second, he throws one and it's still a catchable ball.
And guess
he
what?
didn't play bad.
Yes, he did play bad.
Skip, there's nothing like this. Mahomes had never not scored more than at least 20 points. He was averaging 30 points in the games in which he started. He couldn't get the ball in the end zone. And what came to fruition, Skip, I said, I was concerned because you lost your left tackle, you lost your right tackle, you took your right tackle, put him at left tackle, you put your right guard, put him at right tackle, and then you had to bring a guy that hadn't played all year long in at guard, and it showed its ugly head. They played basically one coverage the entire night. Skip, they played cover two. They played cover two. And when you can play cover two...
And rush 4. They blitzed the fewest times they have all year because they didn't need to.
And when they blitzed it, they missed it. They brought the guy, McCole Hardman missed the blitz, Skip. The guy came off his side, and he never turned around.
You're talking about the double corner blitz?
Yes.
They threw a double corner at him right away.
Out of cover, a single high safety. So I'm sure they weren't expecting that, Skip. They didn't expect this. Nobody expected them to play exclusively cover two. And the thing is about cover two defense, Skip, you can't throw a team out of it. You got to run them out of it. You got to force them to drop that safety down, and so you can get single high safety. They were unwilling, they got, for whatever reason, Andy just wanted to throw. And you got further and further behind Shaq Barrett and JPP, and Ndamukong Suh looked like the Ndamukong Suh his first couple of years in Detroit. He started collapsing the pocket. They let those two inside linebackers float to the football, and it was good night, Irene. They did a great job.
I think it is incredibly difficult to come away with any take other than there is not a quarterback in the league that would have fared better yesterday. There's not one. That's not to say that Mahomes doesn't have weapons. He has amazing weapons. And it's not to say the Bucs defense is the greatest defense of all time. It's very good, but it's a very good defense. But it's not the greatest defense in Super Bowl history. It wasn't even the greatest defense in the NFL this year. But in last night's game, with that Chiefs offensive line lost from the beginning, with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, two men I have enormous respect and affection for, inexplicably not having anyone help the offensive line on 92% of the snaps, 92% of the dropbacks, they blocked with 5. Didn't have a single extra blocker out there, even when it was clear those 5 could not block the Tampa front. I think it is incredibly intellectually dishonest to ding Mahomes for this one.
How did you predict that they will win this game? And then you were predicting not only would they win the game and score over 30, but it may not even be close. But then you knew the variables coming into the game. You knew that who had the most turnovers in terms of takeaways as a defense? Tampa Bay Bucks. You know who had the most pressures in the NFL this year? Tampa Bay Bucks. You knew that the Chiefs had a compromised offensive line, but you still had an expectation of 30-plus points.
Correct.
And then when they give you only 9, you're not disappointed. Because make that make sense.
And it makes sense because of this. We've never seen anyone do what Todd Bowles did to those Chiefs.
Who? When?
We've never seen anybody do
What
it.
you mean? 2 high safeties?
No.
The second half of the first game?
We've never seen anybody hold the Chiefs to that kind of minimal offensive output.
Yes.
So when I'm looking,
I'm disappointed.
I'm all like, yo, Todd Bowles, phenomenal. Oh. That's it. That's where it starts for me. That's where it stops for me. Todd Bowles, you did your thing, because if it was that easy, everybody else would have done it.
I understand people say that's a home field. They could have played anywhere they wanted to play. If Tampa plays like they played last night defensively, they beaten Kansas City in Arrowhead, they beaten them on the moon, they beaten them in Africa, they beaten them in Russia. That was a total domination. Give the Bucs credit.
I do think the Chiefs were surprised by something they shouldn't have been surprised by. So this was, Dusty sent me this according to Next Gen, the lowest Todd Bowles team has blitzed in a game in 5 years. But the reason that shouldn't have been surprising is, coming into this game, the lowest he's ever blitzed in any game was against Andy Reid once before, and the second lowest was against Andy Reid a different time. The Bucs rushed 4 on almost every play and got 18 pressures when rushing 4 guys.
Brady has probably ascended to the greatest of all time in all of sports. Just think about what he's done. He has the highest winning percentage, and I think I heard this from Romo last night on the broadcast, the highest winning percentage of any player in the 4 major sports. Tampa had the lowest winning percentage of any team in the 4 major sports. And in year 1, he takes them to the Super Bowl. It shows how special he is. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You don't pay him to come in and throw for 300, 350 yards. That's not where he's valuable anymore. Where he's valuable is Monday through Friday. When he steps in that locker room, when he steps in that huddle, everybody believes. It's Tom Brady, the GOAT.
He will not be caught. First of all, Tom Brady's got 7 now. He's got 7. All other active quarterbacks, including Drew, who's going to probably retire in a couple weeks, Drew Brees, they've got 8. Yeah, Greeny, it's the greatest Super Bowl run a quarterback has ever gone on. I mean, he just went through 3 of the all-time greats at the position. 3 guys that will be Hall of Famers. 2 of them on the road, right, with Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, and then knocked off the king of football right now in Patrick Mahomes. So for Tom Brady, it's the greatest Super Bowl run a quarterback has ever been on. I think this is, why it's so impressive is the quarterback position. There's no position like it in football, in sports, that is more impactful. It's the most impactful position in sports. You impact so many pieces around you, yet it's also the position that's most dependent on those around them in sports.
To me, Tom Brady ascended past Jordan, past Russell. He already was obviously past Montana, but further past Montana, and joined only LeBron as the team sport athletes that you know. Guess what? They're the system. Where they go, the winning follows. So if the football GOAT discussion is not one we can have, here is one we can have. And here is what Tom Brady, as much as it pains me to say, here is what he ascended to last night. He ascended to a level in American team sports that there was only currently one person at. And that level is, I am the system. I am the championship culture. I am the winning. Where I go, it goes. Tom Brady has now done this outside of the New England cocoon. He has now done this without Bill Belichick. He has done this in his first season with a new team that was the losingest team historically in the history of American sports, with a head coach that was a good head coach, but not a proven championship head coach.
When he became a free agent, there were teams that thought about making a move with Tom Brady, but in the end, ultimately, when he became a free agent in mid-March, there were two teams that seriously pursued him. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there were 30 other teams that thought they had a better quarterback solution than going out and getting the greatest player in NFL history at the most impactful position, a man capable of changing your entire culture. How could 30 teams take a look at a guy where you didn't even have to trade any picks to New England? You didn't have to give up any compensation. All you had to do was hand your program to him. And there were 2 teams that wanted to do that. 2. Okay? The rest looked past him. They all thought he was too old. They all thought he looked washed up in New England in his last season there. They all thought he wouldn't be able to do it at the age of 43. And once again, I think one of the things that drives Tom Brady is proving people wrong. And now it's proving people wrong at the age that he's doing it at.
Max, this is the most impressive Super Bowl win in the history of the NFL, bro. Some circumstances Tom Brady has no control over, but he played in a time where those circumstances were the problem, all right? So if I told you, if I said, let's forget about names, let's forget about everything you just said. If I said, Max, don't use your whole Columbia, try to switch things around on this situation. This is clear and plain. You know me. I'm a straight to the point, black and white type guy. All right? If I told you a 43-year-old quarterback was going to go to the Super Bowl with a new team that didn't have an offseason, that played a season in a global pandemic, that lost games in November, that everybody counted them out, went on to win the Super Bowl, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, who you deemed was about to be a dynasty, and you would tell me that that's not the best Super Bowl run?
The perception was they were a very good team, and Tom Brady was still perceived as an effective quarterback, whether or not elite. But he showed this year, as I had to admit, he was elite by the end of the year, threw 40 touchdowns, not a lot of interceptions. So they go into the playoffs in a global pandemic, that's true, but everyone was in that situation. Everyone was. They beat a 7-9 team on the road, but with a good defense. Okay, that's fine. They beat a Drew Brees team that was clear. Look, they beat them, and that counts. And Brees had a chance to win that game, and he didn't. But Brees is clearly done. That's why we're talking retirement. He was fine. He was an NFL quarterback, but he was no longer the great Drew Brees. Then he goes to Lambeau and beats Rodgers, who won the MVP, who's 37. And then he goes as a slight underdog against a Kansas City Chiefs team without an offensive line. At home, he beats them. Eli, on the other hand, for a 9-7 team that never looked elite that year. As I said, I'm just taking 07, but this applies to 11 too. Beat a better team with a better quarterback and a better record in the first round on the road. Beat a better team with at least a better quarterback with as good a record on the road. Beat Aaron Rodgers when he was in his prime the second time. Brett Favre the first time. Brett Favre won 13 games. Rodgers won 15, both at Lambeau, and then beat Tom Brady both times in the Super Bowl. The first time, Marcus, in 07, that was the greatest team of all time. And the GOAT, Tom Brady, had his greatest season. What?
Wait a second. Molly. I don't have return, so I can't see you. Molly, let me ask you a question, Molly. Please. Who won NFL MVP this year?
Tom Brady, as I predicted.
Yeah, Rodgers.
And won the Super Bowl as I predicted.
I'm talking about
31 points
the
as I predicted.
season. I'm talking about the season, Molly. Who was the NFL MVP?
Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers.
Who did Tom Brady beat on his way to the Super Bowl?
Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers was 15-1 when Eli beat him.
And then Patrick Mahomes.
It was 15-1.
He was 13-3 this year. And league
okay,
MVP.
So you want to call it comparable? So let's match it up. You want to call Rodgers at 15-1, Rodgers at 37, who won the MVP, a comparable win? Fine. At Lambeau, fine. That actually is comparable. I give the edge to Eli, who beat a younger version with a better record, but let's call it a wash. Romo at 13 wins back then was a better version and a harder win, I think, than the Saints this year. Obviously, a winning team with a name brand quarterback better than a Washington win this year. And then the difference is the Super Bowl. Yes, you beat a Chiefs team with no offensive line, and you were at home. You were the first team to host a home game. Eli went on the road to beat your Tom Brady. Brady's greatest season
Max, who you pick in the Super Bowl?
Year. He had Randy Moss. They were undefeated.
Who you picked to win the Super Bowl?
Touchdowns. That was the greatest offense of all time.
Who you picked to win the Super Bowl?
And Eli outplayed him and beat him and won Super Bowl MVP.
Who did you pick?
The Chiefs.
Who did you pick to win the Super Bowl? Oh, he picked the Chiefs.
But
now the Chiefs don't have an offensive line.
But I thought they should be underdogs. I thought Mahomes would have to come back, have to come from behind.
Molly, please help Molly.
I can't control who gets hurt on the offensive line heading into the Super Bowl.
Listen, this show is not about my opinion. I will say, full disclosure, I'm a Giants fan, but yeah, I'm not with you here on this one, Max. Strong case, but you can finish this up, Max.
The 85 Bears were the greatest team of all time until that Patriots team came around in 07. Everyone was about to call them not only the greatest team in football history, the greatest team in history, period. Tom Brady, the GOAT, was at his absolute best. He had the best team around him. They were huge favorites, and Eli won MVP by beating him. It's just, they didn't come in all banged up like the Chiefs. They came in crushing everybody.
You done, Marcus? Lost for words? Yeah. Okay.
Molly.
We'll let
Molly.
I'll let you breathe for a little if you need to. We can go to commercial. Tell me what you need right now.
Molly, let me say this real quick.
Yeah.
A quarterback in the NFL just won a Super Bowl at 43 years old.
Yeah.
And we gonna sit on this show
Who someone
and say
thought
that
fell
that's
off a
not the
cliff.
most impressive Super Bowl. Come on, man. I can't do this
Of
with
all
Max
people I
today.
would
I
have thought
can't.
Max would have said that.
I don't have it. Don't have it.
I agree.
don't have
That
it.
what
I
you're
don't
saying
have
makes
today.
it the third most impressive Super Bowl run ever, behind both by Eli, who beat Tom Brady in his prime.
But you doing it. You doing it. I'm
But
not
I will say
falling
this:
for it.
heading into
I
the
ain't doing
season,
it.
the Bucs were among the favorites because they were loaded everywhere.
I don't give
And
a
you
damn
all thought
what
Brady
they
was going to
were.
be great.
It don't
Well,
make
unexpected
it.
according
I
to
don't
you.
care
Let's
what
all
they.
take a moment.
I don't care what we thought.
Let's all take a moment.